Last week marked the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. The show went on the air September 8th, 1966. Now, some sci-fi fans who love Star Trek also love Star Wars. But some fanatics say no, you have to choose one or the other. One of those fanatics is our associate producer, Jordan Schlansky. There he is. Jordan is obsessed with Star Wars. He thinks it's far superior to Star Trek. But here's the thing. Jordan kind of reminds me of Spock. The lack of emotion, the robotic way of speaking, the absence of any behavior that could remotely be considered human. So I thought it would be fun for us to force Jordan to dress up as Spock and make him come out here and pay homage to Star Trek and congratulate all Trekkies on their 50th anniversary. He doesn't want to do it. We're making him do it because it's his fucking job. Please welcome Jordan Schlansky. Jordan, thank you very much for being here. Like the Spock costume. Now, first of all, tell us, why do you think Star Wars is superior to Star Trek?
Well, Star Trek is grounded in our own frame of reference, and as such, suffers from the limits of our own trite reality. In fact, Star Wars delves more into the worlds of fantasy and mythology and touches on some universal mythological themes that have been present across humanity since the beginning of time. You'll find that most cultures on Earth share a common mythology. In fact, the Greek Odysseus was known as Ulysses in Rome. The Greek Zeus was known as Jupiter in Rome. The Greek Poseidon was known as Neptune in Rome. And you're talking about a story of a young farm boy from the middle of nowhere that goes up against a great oppressor. And this story is common in a lot of mythology, such as David and Goliath. And you'll find, again, that this touches a core human emotion that we all need to explore through a fantasy world, those concepts which we cannot achieve in our own reality world. Now, on another note, I find that the universal worldwide acceptance of Star Wars is also grounded in this commonality that we all share. Instead of being limited through one frame of reference, through one focal point, we can see things in a cross-cultural manner, if you will. And in fact, to expand on that a little bit, I think that you'll find that the Star Wars universe is relatable for any culture on Earth, any economic standing, any financial standing on Earth. Because again, we're talking about themes that are core to the concept of humanity in general and emotional. Furthermore, I can tell you that the types of themes that you're talking about in Star Trek are limited towards a certain set of circumstances that exist in almost a two-dimensional plane, where in Star Wars you're really exploring different feelings about humanity, happiness, sadness, all the various spectrum of the human existence. And I find that even though you're talking about characters that are often not human, we as human beings can identify through their struggles. And you'll find that most great storytelling has to deal with a protagonist, an ordinary person up against extraordinary odds. And I think that if you look at the literature across the history of recorded time, you'll find that a lot of the great stories have followed that same theme. The storyline is almost unimportant because you're talking about grand themes here about human achievement when faced with unlikely odds. And furthermore, I can tell you that beyond that, it's something that we can all agree upon. It is all something that we can all identify with. And relatability, I'm sure you know, as someone that works in the storytelling world, is a concept that is necessary to have an audience invest themselves in the story that you're telling. I'll also tell you that the Star Wars universe, while on some level is very exotic, had a musical soundtrack grounded in 19th century romantic music. And in fact, I can relate Star Wars, the appeal of it, towards some of the great Impressionist paintings like the Dutch Van Gogh, because his paintings, although not photographic, if you will, or photorealistic, inspired our own imagination to latch on to the concepts present in the painting. And for example, if you look at Van Gogh's Starry Night, you'll see that, again, while it doesn't necessarily look exactly like a city and stars and the wind blowing through the trees, you can feel the feeling of what it was like to be in that situation. You know, unlike looking at a photograph, which again gives you that two-dimensional representation, a split-second, microsecond in time, if we will. And as anyone knows that's had a bad photograph taken of them, a split second in time doesn't often represent the whole picture. However, when you're talking about the idea of a painting, and certainly an oil painting, an impressionist oil painting, you're not necessarily capturing all the minute details, you're capturing a feeling. Now, how do you put a feeling down on canvas? How do you put a feeling down on the screen? Well, that's the job of the artistic storyteller. And in fact, the storyteller in this case took his own human emotions, his own human struggles, and that of others, and put them into a fantastic circumstance, which none of us could have possibly experienced, yet can all take pride pride and relate to. Again, the young, struggling farm boy wanting to be a part of it. Now, these are themes that were touched upon in 1976's Rocky. I'm talking about the original Rocky. It wasn't about winning the fight. That movie is not a boxing movie. That movie is about an ordinary guy placed in extraordinary circumstances. A guy, he was the underdog. You know, another common concept you find in a lot of literature. He was the underdog that wanted to make it. All he wanted to do was go the distance. He wanted to make it to the Philadelphia Spectrum. It probably has some corporate branded name now. But at the time, 1976, shot in 1975, it was called the Philadelphia Spectrum. These theaters and arenas, amphitheaters had real names back then. You know, I think Fenway Park is still named as such. Candlestick Park, I'm sure, has been renamed. I don't really follow sports myself, but I've heard these terms said. And I know that a lot of the original, like Shea Stadium, I think is like Citibank Field or something. But that's not really relevant to what I'm talking about here, but interesting nevertheless. However, what I'm saying is that for an artist to accurately portray a feeling on film or canvas or whatever the medium, I mean, you could be talking about a mound of clay. Really, the artistic medium is irrelevant. When a singer gets up and sings, you don't care about the vocal cords vibrating at certain frequencies. You're trying to take part in and relate to a certain feeling that that artist is trying to convey. When a sculptor takes a look at a hunk of mud and clears away certain sections to make this great monolith of art, again, it's not about the minerals that are present in the mud, it's about the feeling that you're trying to convey.
You're fired. Get the fuck out of here and never come back.
I thought you were going to cut me off at some hand, so I just...
It became a battle of wills, and it was...
No, it doesn't say I cut him off.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't say I cut him off.
We wanted you to take your own cue.
First of all, that was an incredible performance. It really was. I was waiting for you to finish so that I could say my line and didn't know. I thought that was part of what they had in mind, was that he goes on for 6 minutes. I didn't know.